You know, most of us think of math and music as being on totally opposite ends of the spectrum, right? One is all cold, hard logic, and the other is pure feeling and creativity. But what if I told you they are not only connected, but that you literally can't have one without the other? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and uncover the hidden mathematical symphony that's playing inside every single note you've ever heard.
So, let's start with a simple question. When you hear a single note from a guitar or a piano, what are you actually hearing? I mean, it sounds like one thing, right? One clean sound. But the truth is way, way cooler than that, and it might just change how you listen to music forever. It turns out that a single note isn't a solo performance at all. It's actually a whole choir. It's a complex chord, a rich blend of different frequencies all vibrating together in perfect harmony. It's a hidden symphony. And the most incredible part? The entire structure of that symphony is perfectly, and I mean perfectly, predicted by math. Okay, so to really get our heads around this hidden orchestra, we first need to understand what sound actually is. We got to do a little dissection and look at the anatomy of a sound wave.
So every sound in the universe is just vibrations. That's it. And the speed of those vibrations is what we call frequency, measured in hertz. You know the A note that an orchestra tunes do? That's just a string vibrating 440 times every single second. And it's super simple. The faster the vibration, the higher the pitch we hear.
Now these vibrations travel through the air in waves, and the distance from the peak of one wave to the next is its wavelength. And just to give you a sense of scale, a pretty low 100 Hz note creates a sound wave that's over 3 meters long. That's, 11 feet? It's literally longer than most cars. And here's where it gets interesting. Frequency and wavelength have this perfect seesaw relationship. They're inversely proportional. When one goes up, the other has to go down. Why? Because they're both tied to the speed of sound, which is constant. So a high-frequency, high-pitched sound is going to have a short, punchy wavelength. A low-frequency, low-pitched sound will have a long, stretched-out one. Makes sense, right?
Okay, so here's the big secret we've been building up to. When an instrument plays a note, it is never producing just one single frequency. It's actually creating a whole bunch of them, a whole spectrum of sounds all at the same time. This is where our hidden symphony comes from. And this little symphony has two key players. First, you've got the star of the show, the fundamental. This is the lowest and loudest frequency, the one we actually give a name to, like that 440A. But then you've got the backup singers, the overtones. These are a whole series of higher, quieter notes that give the sound its unique character and richness.
And this is where it gets mind-blowing. These overtones are not random. They follow an incredibly simple pattern. If our fundamental is 440 Hz, the first overtone will be exactly double that, at 880 Hz. The second is exactly triple, at 1320 Hz, and on and on. It's just simple multiplication. And get this, those clean, whole number ratios, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, are what our brains hear as harmony. This is the mathematical DNA of octaves, chords, basically all of Western music.
So you might be asking, how does a vibrating string know how to do this? How can it be so perfectly predictable every single time? Well, the answer is one of the most powerful tools ever invented: differential equations.
Now, I know that sounds super complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Think of it like a recipe for predicting the future. Step 1, you create a little math model of your object, say a violin string. Step 2, you use the laws of physics to describe all the forces acting on it. And step 3, you solve the equation, and it literally tells you with perfect precision exactly how that string will vibrate through time. And that's really the core of it. For a string, the main forces are just its tension and its weight. Once you describe those with an equation, the math doesn't guess, it doesn't estimate, it calculates the exact future of that vibrating system. It's like a crystal ball made of numbers.
So here's the big payoff. When the mathematicians solve that equation, their answer is something called a sum of sine waves. And when we listen with our ears, what do we hear? A series of overtones. They are the exact same thing, just described in two different languages, the language of math and the language of music.
What is so amazing is that this mathematical code isn't just for violins. Nope, it's pretty much a universal principle that explains why all kinds of different instruments have their own unique voice. I mean, think about it. A vibrating string and a vibrating column of air inside a trumpet, they're actually pretty similar. In both cases, you just have a wave bouncing back and forth in a confined, one-dimensional space. So of course the math that describes them is going to be almost identical. Here's a perfect example. Ever wonder why a clarinet plays lower notes than a flute of the same length? Well, a flute is basically a tube that's open at both ends, but a clarinet is closed on one end by the mouthpiece. That tiny physical difference changes the boundary conditions in the math problem. The result? The clarinet's fundamental wavelength is longer, which means its fundamental pitch is lower. It's that simple.
But what about drums, I hear you ask? Great question. So far, we've only been talking about things that vibrate in one dimension, along a line. A drumhead is a two-dimensional surface. That shift from 1D to 2D makes the math way more complex, and the resulting overtones are no longer in that nice, neat whole number series. And that's precisely why a drum gives you a percussive thud instead of a clear musical pitch.
All right, so we've cracked the code of a single note, but music is about moving from one note to another to create a melody. So how do musicians actually control all this physics to make the music we love?
Well, the math tells us there are three main knobs a musician can turn to change a note on a string. They can play with its length, its tension, and its weight, or its linear density.
Let's start with tension. Anyone who's ever tuned a guitar gets this instinctively. You tighten the tuning peg, you increase the tension on the string, that makes it vibrate faster, and the pitch goes up. That's all tuning is. Now length works the other way. A longer string vibrates slower, giving you a lower pitch. So when a violinist puts their finger down on the fingerboard, what are they really doing? They are simply shortening the effective length of the string, making it vibrate faster and produce a higher note.
So really, you can think of every musician as an intuitive physicist. They are constantly manipulating these variables, length, tension, weight, all by feel to create beautiful melodies. Every song you love is just a journey through this predictable, mathematical landscape of sound.
So the next time you're listening to a favorite song, try to listen past the melody. Listen for that hidden symphony inside each note. You might just start to hear the elegant, beautiful mathematics holding the whole thing together. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is music an art form that just happens to obey the laws of physics? Or is it the artistic expression of those very laws themselves?